Okay, all right, good afternoon, everyone. We are calling our meeting to order here on Tuesday, July 21st. This is the meeting to address the question selection for the upcoming California bar exam. Ms. Wong, could you take roll, please?
Sure. Esther Lin.
Here.
Alex Chen.
Present.
Michael Iseri.
Here.
Paul Kramer.
Here.
Bethany Pick.
Here.
Judge Shelley Toriyaba. Judge Toriyaba.
Here. Sorry, couldn't get unmuted fast. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
And then Chair Robert Brody. We have
also present. All right, welcome everyone, and also welcome to our participants who have called in. As I said, the subject matter of this meeting is a rather narrow one. It is for attorney members of the Committee of Bar Examiners to look at the question selection for the upcoming bar exam. That is done in closed session because we do not reveal the questions on the bar exam until applicants receive the exam to take it. This meeting is called for 1 hour. I think most of us are at work, and I also have to go back to work in an hour. So I think what I'm going to do is allocate 1/3 of that time, approximately 20 minutes, to public comment because I do see that a number of people have raised their hands. I'm going to limit public comment today to about 3 minutes time. I will let you know if you go over that time. And I'm going to ask, because as I said, we have a very narrow scope today. We're just addressing the upcoming bar exam questions that you, if anyone would like to comment, that you limit your comments to that topic. The topic we'll be discussing today. And let's see, Ms. Now is the time for public comment. Ms. Wong, can I just click on the name and click a chat?
Oh no, Mr. Chair, you can just call their name and Devin will unmute their speaker.
Okay, so I think these are in order of when they've called in. Mr. Aguirre, Mr. James Aguirre. Mr. Aguirre, go ahead.
Yes, I am. Thank you to the members and to the hardworking State Bar staff. I appreciate the opportunity to express this to you, although the amount of time forces me to skip over some things that I would otherwise speak to. One concern that I have, and I'll put this out there up front because I don't want anybody to be offended by some of my comments or take them personally. I have the world of respect for all of the members of the committee and all of the staff in particular, who I've always thought were a blessing to me to have worked with. My comments are meant to apply for all the State Bar stakeholders and applicants. And the first thing that I'd like to mention is that the selection of questions is, in fact, perhaps premature, in the sense that the format the exam is to take, the components of the exam for the October administration, and some of the details with respect to how that impacts, in particular, applicants who have special needs, who need accommodations. And I bring this up in the framework of yesterday's release of details about the examination format and components, and in particular, the dealing with accommodations for students. And I'm very, very concerned about this. I recognize the components. I've been involved with the State Bar Committee of Bar Examiners and the administration exam for 40 years, as I mentioned the last time I spoke to you. So I'm intimately familiar with that. And I'm very concerned about how that's going to play out in this October exam. In particular, the components and therefore the questions appear to be exactly the same nature as what would be expected in a traditional exam. And what it forces is the ability to both administer the exam, now has new constraints in terms of dealing with the time constraints on technology. And it also has an extreme impact on the most in need of accommodation. And I'll give you one example because there's not a lot of time. But for example, as I read the document that was released yesterday, persons who have a need for 1.5 times accommodation on time will be accommodated remotely. Anyone who needs more than that because of their conditions will be forced to choose between appearing live for the exam, perhaps risking their health or their aggravating their disability. They would have to choose between coming in to a live setting, public setting, even if it's the state bar offices that I'm very familiar with, or accepting an exam remotely with no accommodation. That is absolutely a false choice, and it's critically important that that be corrected. There is no way that a person, for example, with 1.5 times need should get more accommodation, get their need fully met, and a person with the need medically for 2 times would get a choice between no accommodation and accommodation in a live setting.
Okay, Mr. Aguirre, I'm going to stop you now because you've gone over your 3 minutes time, and I'm going to move on. But before I do, to Ms. Shire, I want to remind all attendees that you are most welcome to submit a public comment in writing in advance of the meeting. I know, and I've spoken to almost everyone on the Committee of Bar Examiners about this. It's not just because I'm the chair. We take those public comments that we receive in writing very seriously. We review them. I probably reviewed 60 or 70 public comments in anticipation of the meeting today, and my fellow members did also. It gives you an opportunity to maybe say a little more or express a little more for the members and staff to review. So I think everyone knows that, but I'm going to encourage you to keep that in mind. Now, Ms. Alyssa Shire, you're welcome to make your comments this morning or this afternoon. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and inviting us to have an opportunity to be part of this conversation. I'd like to ask the committee to clarify as soon as possible what types of law we will be tested on. It's my understanding that the FAQs posted yesterday do not address this question, so it is unclear whether we will be tested on NCBE law, UBE law, California law, what we will be expected to know. It's a very short period of time that we have to study, and if we're going to need to change both the way in which we approach studying, meaning that we're going to have to move away from scratch paper and physical paper and using materials like that to an online study-based format, we will also need to know the content of the law as soon as possible. What you're asking us to do is very unfair, especially for those who have limited time to study. Again, I'd like to ask you to clarify what types of law will be tested on for all of us. I'd also like to echo the last caller's plea for clarification reaccommodations. We have no clarity on how the accommodations will be provided, how the test questions will be changed or not for those who are requiring accommodations. I'd also like to point out the fact that the FAQs yesterday say that the NCBE will be providing 100 MBE questions for the remote online exam. I'd like to point out that 100 is not the typical amount that is normally administered for the exam format and may result in people doing performing less well on the MBE because of the limited number of questions. So I yield the rest of my time. I would just like to ask for clarification because again, we don't even know what we are supposed to be studying for. We just learned the format. So please let us know as soon as possible. It's really, really hard to make any moves forward it's very difficult to ask from our bar prep programs what we should be doing if you have not even told them. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Shire. Now, Jackie, Nicole, you are welcome to share your comments now. You're unmuted.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I just wanted to, I know you're going to be going over the questions for the bar exam, and so I just wanted to also echo to keep in mind that this is completely different circumstances that anyone has ever studied for. We realize that we are the guinea pigs, but to include questions, and I'm not saying to make it easier, but to also keep in mind the fact that we're not going to have any scratch paper. And the virtual scratch paper, while helpful, does not substitute for the kind of diagramming that we have learned in law school and also through the bar preparation courses. So I just really ask that you keep that in mind when considering the questions, that this will be done virtually in ways that none of us have ever done before. That includes for the PT. I do appreciate the 8 pieces of scratch paper. I fail to understand why we can't do the same while doing the other questions, showing that the paper's blank so that we can be able to write things down. That would be really helpful. And then also, just as someone with a request for accommodations with the upcoming date of this Friday as the deadline, I think it's been really difficult to be able to turn in something where I have all the facts. If I'm applying for accommodations and I have to include a caveat in there that says, in the event that I am made to come in person, I will not be able to due to prior cancer diagnosis, I will take the time and a half. But you worded it yesterday in your facts section as the ability to waive accommodations. And that to me signifies that you're asking us to waive accommodations entirely. And I think today that needs to be rectified and edited immediately, because I don't know what I'm turning in. I have no guidance on that. So I do not waive my right to accommodations, but if I have to put in there that in the case that my double time will make me come in person, I will waive my right to double time and take time and a half, then I need that kind of specificity in the accommodations. Without any kind of understanding of what you're planning in terms of health and safety regulations for in-person testing, I am not willing to wait for that. I'm assuming that will come much, much later. So to allow us the option of taking the time and a half at least, to please make that more clear. And as far as the PT, again, I would say for the same thing with the essay questions, just to realize that scrolling up and down, no matter if there's, it's side by
Okay,
side.
Ms. Nicole, I'm going to stop you. You've
you.
gone over
That's
your
great.
3 minutes time. Mr. Gorley, are you there? You are welcome to share your comments, and you're unmuted.
Hi, committee members and staff. Thank you for the time. Just one brief thought so I can yield to others. It's kind of unclear in the FAQs, you know, if we have questions further to those that are related, so we don't have to come to meetings like this to try and ask those questions where we're not expecting necessary answers, but just if there can be like a link or some other way to contact the bar that isn't a generic email that we'd use for all of our potential questions, but are more specific to the new rules outlined from the FAQ. I think it streamlined a lot of these processes and public comments so we can stay more focused. But I know it brings up a lot more questions without us being able to properly focus who to contact, and probably bogs down the system overall. But with that, thank you, and I'll yield my time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gorley, for your comments. Tyler Harris, are you ready? You're unmuted. You're welcome to share your comments today.
Yes, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I am an applicant for the 2020 fall bar exam. I'm a recent graduate from Pepperdine Law. And I'd like to highlight some of the concerns that I have about the FAQs, which were released yesterday. Now, the first concern that I have is that desktop computers are not allowed essentially for security reasons, yet ExamSoft themselves have said that there's no problem with using a desktop computer. And that applies also to the issue of dual monitors. Now, in your FAQs, it says that the software will be able to detect if you have additional ports being used on your laptop computer, and yet somehow it's a security risk for you to have that monitor anyway, or for you to use a desktop computer or an external webcam, even if the webcam on your laptop is broken, which means that people who are already facing financial hardship are going to be forced to endure an additional hardship by having to purchase a laptop which is adequate for the exam and which has a large enough screen to be able to take the exam comfortably, because many laptops, which are less expensive, are also smaller and therefore less able to handle a larger screen without additional power consumption. Now, the issue of internet connectivity during the exam, it says that you're required to have internet during all of these login periods, and that you're going to be required to go to an external website in order to access the passwords to log into each exam session. If your router has an internet blip, if your area has a service outage, you may be out of internet for more than 10 minutes. And if it happens during that critical time, your FAQs say that you are unable to log back in and continue to take the exam, which means that you failed the bar exam through no fault of your own, and now you're out thousands of dollars and months of your time, adding to additional hardships, which you are already more likely to have, because service outages, router outages are all things which disproportionately affect low-income people and people who are unable to afford expensive equipment. Now, this physical scratch paper issue has already been addressed by someone else, and I'd like to echo those comments. Now, as to the issue of the webcam recordings. Now, during the first year law student examination, the AI and human proctoring revealed some issues. Many applicants said that after the first year law student examination, they received Facebook friend requests from proctors who had seen them through their webcams during the examination. That is an unacceptable privacy violation, and it is a massive invasion to expect us to allow the invasion of our privacy for 2 days, or else we cannot become licensed in a reasonable time frame. That is absolutely unacceptable. Now, in addition to that, we are forced to license the video to ExamSoft to use in their AI program without any option for us to reserve that right or to own that data ourselves. And we can't have water in the exam room, but for some reason we're allowed to bring a single pillow as long as it doesn't have a pillowcase.
Okay, Mr. Harris, I'm just going to stop you at this time because you've gone over your 3 minutes and invite Mr. Evan Armstrong. Mr. Armstrong, are you there? You are unmuted and you're welcome to share your comments.
Hello to the committee. First, I wanted to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak. That's not to say necessarily on the narrow issue which you have set out today, but the opportunity to speak at all. I'm speaking today for the repeat takers of this exam who have been systematically and continuously silenced. I'm sure that you're all aware of what repeat takers are going through, but it seems that we have not been heard on these overall public meetings. Repeat takers were not taken into account during the overall meeting, as was shown by the fact that 2020 grads were gifted with provisional licenses, while we have been studying for over a year for this exam and we have simply been cast aside. Repeat takers have more experience studying for the bar, as well as more practical experience in the field. And repeat takers are the ones who actually have loans due, are actually suffering from this lack of healthcare and jobs. And third, I think that there's an important subset of repeat takers, those who would have passed with the passage scores set out by the California Supreme Court, but were failed on their previous attempt at the examination. So in other words, people who failed at the score of 1440, but still scored above a 1390. I know that these people wish to be heard, whether it's in this meeting, whether it's in another meeting. And fourth, and to the point of this meeting, I want to know if you will allow us, if we are accused of cheating on this examination by the AI machines, if you will allow us to use the 6th Amendment to the United States Constitution as a defense, in the fact that we have the right to confront witnesses. So that's all, and I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, Mr. Pilar, are you there? You are unmuted. I see your orange and white J.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I would like to give public comment on the exam rules that were promulgated yesterday by the State Bar. I was looking over the technical requirements for it. You need to have Windows 10. This is something I do not have on my current laptop. All throughout law school, I've used this laptop. It has Windows 7 on it. I've had no problem, so I'm not quite sure what the issue is here. I also need to have an upload speed of 2.5 megabytes. I checked my upload speed last night, and I have one, just about one. I live in a rural area. I suspect a lot of other people have this issue as well. So I would hope you could do maybe a study on that and see if people actually meet the requirements that you've set out. I also want to talk about how people can potentially fail the exam. If a cat walks in the room, you fail the exam. I'm basing this off the FAQ. If you drink water during the exam, you fail the exam. If you take an Advil during the exam, you fail the exam. If you need to use the bathroom during the exam, you fail the exam. If you lose your internet connection 10 minutes at the start of the exam when you try to sign in, you fail the exam. If your face is not completely in the webcam, you fail the exam. If a paper is within your reach during the exam, you fail the exam. I think the rules that were promulgated are an embarrassment. I think they're unconscionable. I don't know. I'm just sort of shocked that you would actually send this document out. It's like you picked to do it in October and you never asked if it was a good idea. It's not a good idea. I hope you reconsider it. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pilard. We've completed 1/3 of our meeting time for public comment. So I'm going to close public comment at this time. And I'm going to ask that committee members leave this meeting and sign in again to the closed session for the purpose of our meeting. So let's do that. This meeting is going to be adjourned. We will return to open session to fully adjourn the meeting, but we're going to adjourn this portion so that we can go into closed session. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
And we're back. Do
Give
we
me a
have
second.
almost-
Esther. 1 second.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you go ahead, and whenever you're ready, we can adjourn.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and the closed session. We have adjourned the closed session. So the committee is now done with its agenda. So the meeting will adjourn in open session as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for
Thank
that
you.
wonderful speech.
Thanks all.
Yeah.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.